I call this meeting of the Pittsburgh City Commission to order, August 24th, 2021. Would you join me in the flag salute? All right, moving on to public input. I want to call Eric Johnson up to the podium. He is the new Salvation Army pastor. Eric and his wife Pat are our new Salvation Army leaders. I just want to welcome you to Pittsburgh, and if you don't mind, before the prayer, give a few comments on yourself.
We're not new to leaders. My wife has been a leader, as a pastor for 36 years. I have been for 21. So we're not new. You're getting some experience.
All right, that's good.
We're glad to be here. We moved all the way from El Dorado. But it's a nice move, a very good move for us. If not, I'll pray then for.
All right, thank you.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the people meeting here tonight. We ask for your guidance in all the transactions that are happening, for wisdom for our commissioners, for understanding from those having issues, Lord. We pray, Lord, that it will be to better our community and all that happens here tonight. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Oh, yeah, sorry. Does anyone else would like to speak in public input? If so, come forward, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Seeing none, I'll close the public input portion and move to consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to read.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you have one? Or?
No, I don't have one. It's just
Yeah,
that
I'm
there's
going
a
to read
lot.
the consent agenda. Oh, wait a minute, we got something here.
Can someone remove item F for me, please?
Item F?
Item
F, oh, yeah.
Item F.
So we're going to pull that off
Want
right
to talk
now?
about it, or remove it altogether?
Whenever you're ready.
He
No,
wants,
not
he wants
move it
to
all together, just pull it off.
Okay, all right, for discussion.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to read the consent agenda, excluding item F. Item A, approval of August 10th, 2021 City Commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of applications submitted by Rochelle Grieve on behalf of JG Entertainment LLC for a 2021 cereal malt beverage license for Pat's Lounge located at 501 East 7th Street, and authorize the city clerk to issue the license. Item C, approval of staff recommendation.
Can I ask you to take C off for a
C,
minute?
okay, all right, we can do
I hate to
C.
do that to you, but I'd like a question on that when I
All right.
get to it.
We skip over C, and then we move to item D. Approval of payment to Central Power System and Services regarding work on the asphalt roller in the amount of $21,969.22. Item E, approval of change order number 1 to the contract with Heck and Wicker for the Georgia Street Channel / Culvert Project in the amount of $2,353.76, making the overall contract construction amount $446,842.68, and authorize the mayor to sign the change order on behalf of the city. Item G, approval of staff request to purchase a used John Deere 6130M tractor from the local Heritage Tractor Dealership in accordance with the city's purchasing policy for sole source purchases due to the uniqueness of used equipment in the amount of $116,000, and authorize the mayor to execute the purchase documents on behalf of the city. Item H, approval of staff request to purchase a new Ventrac 4500Z mower with broom sickle attachment from Professional Turf Products, LP, allowed under the cooperative purchasing section of the city's purchasing policy, utilizing Sourcewell contract pricing in the amount of $177.45, and authorize the mayor to execute the purchasing documents on behalf of the city. Item I, approval of staff request to purchase a new Bobcat E42 compact excavator from Clark Equipment Company, Bobcat Company, allowed under the cooperative purchasing section of the city's purchasing policy, utilizing Sourcewell contract pricing in the amount of $56,337.86, and authorize the mayor to execute the purchasing documents on behalf of the city. Item J, approval of staff request to purchase a new John Deere M15 Flex Wing rotary cutter from the local Heritage Tractor dealership, allowed under the cooperative purchasing section of the city's purchasing policy, utilizing state contract pricing in the amount of $17,500, and authorize the mayor to execute the purchasing documents on behalf of the city. Item K, approval of staff request to authorize CDL Electric to repair of the water treatment plant boiler system in the amount of $24,808, and to waive the requirements in the city's purchasing policy that 3 quotes be obtained, and authorize the mayor to execute CDL's electric quote on behalf of the city. Item I, approval of staff recommendation to accept a small solid waste grant in an amount not to exceed $7,500 for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, KDHE, Bureau of Waste Management, for the purchase of a cardboard baler to be used for recycling purposes, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract documents on behalf of the city. Item F, approval of staff recommendation to accept airport rescue grant funding in the amount of $59,000 from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, to be used at the Atchison Municipal Airport for costs related to the coronavirus pandemic response. Authorize the city staff to execute the grant form, and authorize the city attorney to execute the certification of sponsor's attorney. Is there a motion to approve?
There's one more.
One more.
One more.
Item N, approval of appropriation ordinance for the period ending August 24th, 2021, subject to the release of HUD expenditures when funds are received. Now, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda excluding, what items were they?
C and F.
C and F.
C and F.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Roll call vote.
Brooks?
Yes.
Fields?
Yes.
McNay? Yes. Munsell?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yeah.
All right. Item C, approval of staff recommendation to appoint Matthew Lund to fill an unexpired term as a member of the Sustainability Advisory Committee, effective immediately and concluding on December 31st, 2022.
My question is probably more of a comment. I know Matthew, he's very talented, he's more than qualified for the job. My concern is, again, we are going not just outside of the city of Pittsburgh to appoint somebody, we're leaving the state of Kansas. We're leaving the entire state to promote somebody, get somebody to come on these boards. I realize they're volunteers. We got somebody on the airport board out of Joplin. Matthew's a great guy, very talented, very smart, he'll do a wonderful job, but he lives in Webb City. We need people in Pittsburgh to step up and that are qualified people. And I don't know why they don't come to some of these boards and stand up and help improve our city, live here and help do this. And it's a concern I have again that comes up because we have plenty of people here and there's plenty of need. We can have people come and help improve this city. Don't sit in the coffee shop or out at the mall deli and try to improve it sitting out there. Come up and help because we have a lot of talent, we have a lot of needs, and this is nothing against Matthew at all because he's quite talented. But I think we have people in Pittsburgh and we need to do a whole lot better job somehow asking them to come and serve somehow. They're all volunteers, they spend their own time, their own effort, and their own money to come and do things. But for goodness sakes, we need Pittsburgh people to help Pittsburgh. And that's my comment about it, and I hope somebody will step up and help with that.
So, just to point out, doesn't he work at PSU?
He works at PSU, he lives in Webb City.
All right, yes, I just want to make sure people know that he's
Yeah.
not.
And he's well qualified, that's not my point. We have people that are well qualified, work at PSU, that pay taxes here, that live here, and need to help Pittsburgh. Because if I'm in Webb City or if I'm on Mars, I'm not going to help as much as I would if I live here.
How do
That's my point.
How are people notified there is an opening on the board? Is it only on the website? And only from board members, word of mouth? So maybe some of the.
Usually we've got at least one staff person for every board
Yeah.
that is aware of it. In this case, it's Jay. I don't know. I think the Sustainability Advisory Board's a pretty new board. I
Yes.
think if you remember, we barely had enough people to fill it when we
Right.
initiated it. So it's a little different than some of them, but yeah, we usually rely on our, we're really at the mercy of the media that's out there and word of mouth, and our staff goes out and talks to as many people as they can. But it's always, you guys are right on. It's, how do we let people know?
Well, maybe we need, when it's coming up, we need to, and they say it right here at these commission meetings, and ask people to please come and get involved. It's their city too, and those of us that choose to live here, and I am one that chooses to live here. My wife sometimes wishes I did live on Mars, but I choose to live here. And I think we have most of the people that choose to live here, so we need the local people to participate, if we can get them at all, and that's what I think we need to try to do.
Most of the boards cycle at the same time. I think this is probably a vacancy, but I'm not sure because Jay's not here. He's on his way to Wichita for a thing. But I think this is one of those ones that just came open. But yeah,
Well, again, I'm I have no faults with Matthew. I know him, I used him at the Fun Zone. He did a marketing study for us, did an excellent job. He's smart. He's not been in the area that long. I think this was his first year, at Pitt State. But he's quite talented and really good, so yeah, he'd do a great job. But I just would like to see Pittsburgh people step up and do Pittsburgh work.
Well, I agree with you, Larry, and I think what you're saying is if we know there's an appointment that needs to be made, which I didn't know until you get the packet. I don't know if you knew there was gonna be,
I did know.
well.
But I look at the Facebook, which I
Well, I
hate to
don't.
admit.
I think you're right on with, if we know at a commission meeting prior to making an appointment, we ought to bring it up at the meeting prior, there's an opening, so people might, and I don't know how long you gotta have to, apply for this stuff, but.
I don't either, but we need to at least make sure people get an opportunity to know it somehow. A better job, I think.
Right.
That's all I had. Thank you.
sure.
Is there a motion to approve item C?
I make a motion to approve item C.
Second.
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 All- It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approving item C, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item F, approval of change order number 2 to the contract with Heck and Wicker for the Georgia Street Channel and Culvert Project in the amount of $5,984.91, making the overall contract construction amount $452,830.71, and authorize the mayor to sign the change order on behalf of the city. Matt.
Good evening. Tonight, I've just got a technicality. That change order amount is actually $5,988.03. Somehow, we fat fingered it in the agenda. The total increase to the contract amount of $452,830.71 is correct. We just have the wrong amount on the change order dollar value in the memo. Everything in the packet is correct.
All right, and this change order, you might explain,
This particular change order is for the addition of the resident whose property is affected by the drive approach and everything, came to the city and asked if we could replace the remaining sidewalk and crossed in front of their property. And so we agreed to do it on the contract amount as part of our city sidewalk 50/50 match program.
yeah. Yep, thank you, Matt.
It'll be reimbursed that direction.
All right. Is there a motion to approve item F?
So moved.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Good catch, Matt.
All right, moving on to public hearings. A, proposed 2022 revenue neutral rate. The city of Pittsburgh advertised for a public hearing to be held August 24th, 2021 at the city commission meeting commencing at 5:30 PM in the city commission room located in the Law Enforcement Center, 201 North Pine, for the purpose of hearing and answering questions related to exceeding the revenue neutral rate for the 2022 budget.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a new process this year. We kind of talked about it on working day, and we've kind of talked about it throughout the last few months. But with Senate Bill 13 being passed, this is a new process where on June 15th, when the county clerk certifies values, they also give us a revenue neutral rate. And that is saying from our operating expenses last year, our levy would be such, and actually it was 51.428 is what the county clerk certified to us. And we are recommending a 51.475 in our budget to keep our operating. And that is a $6,000 and $336 increase because the valuation was 0.18% this year. So at this time, this is just a hearing to talk about the revenue neutral rate. So if you have any other questions, if not, I will open it to the public.
I don't have any.
No.
Thank you, Larissa.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that could you state your name and address?
Yeah, Zach Sachs, 121 West 25th Street. I think you answered it, but I couldn't hear very well, so I had screaming kids in my ear today. But when was this rate given to you, the 51.428?
June 15th.
June 15th, and when I saw the budget meeting hearing advertised 2 weeks ago, obviously on Facebook and whatnot. When was this hearing advertised and where?
August 6th in the morning sun.
In the Morning Sun? Okay, so I didn't see that advertised, so that's all right. And I think, I'm a math teacher, so my other question was, if I did do the math right, you're getting a $6,300, I had 34, you had 36, dollar increase by raising it. Is there not a way that you could have just budgeted for that loss? Or why did we have to increase it?
The other thing that with the revenue neutral rate, it is best to hold the hearing because values, even though the clerk certifies them on June 15th, they can change. There's kind of pending valuations out there, such as airplanes or something that could come off the tax roll, which would affect the revenue neutral rate. So it's also just in good measure to make sure that we are known with the public that we may exceed that revenue neutral rate.
That's not my question. I understand that. I understand that's why you're having the hearing. My question was.
Zach, can you step up to the
Oh,
mic?
sorry. I didn't want
No,
to,
you're
but
fine.
my question was, if it's only $6,336, why didn't you just budget that in and taking that mill instead of saying, hey, we need this instead? Does that make sense?
Okay, yep.
So.
That's just also a decision that we make as a governing body at working day. We have increases in utility bills. We're looking at a 3 to 5% in contractual services for other services. So that will be absorbed in our existing budget.
And the bigger point is, the commission's made a rule out of trying to hold the mill rate steady. Everything that we do as an organization and as a community is to grow the community. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. The reason we do that is because if we have to pay a $100,000 bill and there's 50,000 of us, then that's obviously going to be a certain cost. If there's 60,000 of us, then that $100,000 bill is less of an impact to each one of us. So as we grow the community population, assessed valuation is a good marker for if we're growing or shrinking. When we do see that growth, we capture that growth and we use that to keep up with the cost of running the city and paying for payroll and insurance and everything that goes up, as opposed to reducing it, keeping it low for 3 or 4 years and having to come back and make up for that later with some kind of mill increase. It's a standard practice. It's a great question, but the reality is everything that we are doing is trying to grow the community so we can keep up with the costs of running the community and not have to cut services. So that's $6,300 may seem insignificant depending on who you are. Splitter costs 20,000 people, but it'll be more next year, hopefully, in the next year. And my recommendation is almost always going to be that we capture that growth and keep the mill rate flat whenever we can.
Great questions. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Any other questions during the public hearing about this proposed revenue neutral rate increase? See no further public hearing questions, I move to close this portion of the public hearing and move to, is there a motion to approve this?
So move.
Been moved and seconded?
Second.
A little ahead of schedule.
Wishful thinking.
I'm still on the consent agenda. It's been moved and second. All in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B, proposed 2022 budget. The city of Pittsburgh advertised for a public hearing to be held August 24th, 2021 at the city commission meeting commencing at 5:30 PM in the city commission room located in Law Enforcement Center, 201 North Pine, for the purpose of hearing and answering questions related to the proposed 2022 budget.
Okay.
All right, Larry.
Good evening, good. So this is actually our normal practice, what we normally do from year to year on the budget. And this is to adopt the proposed 2022 budget that we discussed on working day. It was submitted on July 13th by Darren. So at this point, if there's no questions, I will open it for public input.
All right, public hearing, is anyone here to ask questions about the 2022 proposed budget? And if so, state your name and address.
Zach Satz, 121 West 25th Street, in Pittsburgh. Just going through, first of all, thank you for printing this out. I look at the screen 8 hours a day, and it's hard to just look through 213 pages on a laptop for most of it. Just a couple things. I actually have the page numbers too, if you guys have the budget. Page 21, the reserves point 2. I'll let you flip there before I ask you. Point 2 discusses the public utility fund balance. We're estimated to have around 4.29 million at the end of 2021. According to this budget, it says that we're wanting to raise the water rates by 3%, sewer by 1%. However, in 2022, we're only expected to have a balance of 3.67 million left. Why, when we raise the water rates, are we expecting a $600,000 loss? I'm gonna leave my stuff, is that all right?
We have started to already do design for the wastewater treatment plant. So that is part of the payment starting to the KDHE loan, has started in that process.
So it starts next year?
Sorry.
I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, we didn't raise the rates either the last 2 years.
We haven't,
Yeah.
No, I know that.
So that, so that
I know that.
increases the revenue,
Well, it should increase the revenue.
decrease. I mean, it didn't, we didn't capture any additional revenue by raising rates.
Okay, yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying is we have an increase now, so what she was saying, if we're paying things, then 3.6, yes, that would make sense,
Right.
but not raising it doesn't make sense to not having more revenue in. Does that make sense?
Not raising.
So if your rates, if you have 4.29 mil, right, and you don't raise it and you're still gaining, that's good, right? But if just because of that aspect alone, and you said, oh, we're gonna raise it, well, naturally, you should have more in your revenues. But because we're paying for the water treatment plant and started that makes sense.
Okay, good.
Yep. Page 22, item D. I was just curious as to why we have so much more over our minimum in reserves, and I did a little math, and if I'm completely off with my math, let me know. We needed to have 16%, which shows a 1.5 X amount of million, and this year we're expected, from what I calculated, to have 45% in reserves with a 4.29 million. And this is based on the fact that 1% equals about 94.2 thousand. So can you explain to me why we have so much in reserves? Is it for the water treatment plant? Is this normal for us? What is that expectation?
Okay. So we actually have, that's a goal we've been striving for many years. And we're finally in a financial position where we're hitting that 16%. I think 2018 was the first year we were able to hit that. And so we have been building those reserves in the public utility, basically for that wastewater treatment plant. We are being told we have to, I mean, it's a 50-year-old plant, and we knew that this was coming, so we've been putting those reserves aside for that, because it's gonna be a $40 to $50 million.
Okay, so sorry, I'll stand up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you may want to.
Sorry.
You don't have to sit down. There's too
I
much.
guess I
Yeah.
could sit right here. Yeah.
Go ahead, Holly.
You did it in 2018, you guys got 16%. So once we have the wastewater treatment plant in, built, funded, whatever, is that reserve gonna go back to its minimum? Is it gonna be like 20%? What's cause you're looking at water rates and, not that, I'm not saying nobody can afford it. What I'm saying is, why are we putting 42% in instead of 20? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I understand the water treatment.
Because we're
Don't get me
building a
wrong, I
$50 million
understand that. Will it go back down at all?
And when we're done with the $50 million plant, we'll have a $3 million water tower that needs painted. And when we're done with the $3 million water tower that needs painted, we're gonna have to increase the $250,000 we're doing for water lines. We are probably funding 5% of the maintenance that we're supposed to be funding for the community across all funds, whether it's roads, whether it's our plants, whether it's our vehicles. We don't have enough to keep up. I don't know a community that does. So
I understand
we
that.
tend to go from, we don't have enough reserves. We went through the Great Recession, whatever it was before I got here. We had $1 million. We decided not to do anything and just spend it down. We build our reserves. The 16% is an industry factor, basically telling you, if you're not at 16%, you better get to 16%. There's no fund police. They're not gonna come give us a ticket for not being
Yeah,
there.
I understand that.
But the idea is that's a minimum, okay?
So what's the
I'm trying to
maximum?
run this organization so we don't live on the minimums.
Yeah, I understand that.
We've
So
got
what's the
major
maximum then?
issues. The maximum is probably at least double the minimum if I can get there. And we probably won't get there. I don't
You're
have a
over
fund.
the double.
Well, because we're putting money away for a $50 million plant. Your question
that's
is,
what
what
I'm
are we
saying.
gonna do when we're done with the $50 million plant?
Yeah, and you
And
said,
I'm telling
you said.
we're gonna
minimum.
have to raise the,
Okay,
back up to the minimum. Are you gonna let me answer your question?
I'm hearing you. What I'm saying is, you just said that you wanted to keep it at double. That's what your goal is.
Yes.
And I understand we're raising money for the wastewater treatment plant. Understand that, okay? But at the same time, you're almost triple the industry standard here. Okay?
And you know why.
And I know why, but then you just went back to me and said, well, we're gonna keep it at double, okay?
My
It still
goal is
doesn't make
always going to
sense.
be double.
So do you intend on cutting it at all to just be double instead of triple?
When we have funded the $50 million plant and built it, we will continue to look at reserves.
Okay.
And we will always be shooting for more than the minimum.
Okay, awesome. I have another question. Page 25, in your reserve, as far as resources, it says there's $9 million of discretionary funding and $10 million of the restricted. Understand, I read through that. Restricted is restricted, can't touch. What are the $9 million used for, one? And just a crazy idea, I don't know if this commission has actually talked about anything besides raising the water rates, which I know is a good thing. I know what we're doing is good with the water treatment plant. Don't get me wrong, I understand having good water is good. But have we ever discussed if we have $9 million in reserves that are discretionary? And I don't know this because I haven't done the math of the previous years. If this continues to roll over, simple 5th, 6th grade math will mean, 5 times 9, that's $45 million, and then you have my $5 million. Like I said, I didn't see the history of it. I'm just asking questions about, is this a way, or what is that money prioritized for?
Let me go. Okay, so we're kind of in a very unique position. 2020 was a year of the unknown. So we cut our expenditures way back last year. So that's why our reserves are so high at this point. And we're having those internal discussions right now of how we're going to spend some of this money. I just talked to our parks director, and she needs $500,000 on the pool. So there are discussions of how we're going to be best utilized in the city.
Okay, were there discussions on how to fund the water treatment plant besides the increase?
The increase is not funding the water treatment plant. The increase is funding a very small part of the water treatment plant. We are currently lobbying for at least 75% of that to come from state and federal funds. Because
Awesome.
there's
Awesome. I
no
think
way
that's
we
what's
can
a
go back.
misnomer, because
There's
from
no
what
way
I've
we
heard
can go
is-
back to the community and ask them to basically quadruple their rates or more to pay for a plant.
And I appreciate that.
That's the balance of what we're trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
I appreciate that. This is things I'm hearing secondhand, not from you guys, and so that's why I wanted to talk about it. So, I appreciate it. On that, let's see, page 34. 34 has your expenditures, and this is just a question on numbers. 34, the reserves are set 19,518,860. Is this the same number we're working with back on page 25? And if it is, that number on page 25 is 19,400, or 19,400,908.
No, this has, this is just a set of our operating services within the city.
Okay. Cool. What is the minimum overall that we need for reserves? Like, you have industry standard at 16%, I know that's 1.25 for the water. What's the, this is just curiosity, honest curiosity. What's the minimum industry standard for overall reserves? Or is there one?
For which fund is it?
Overall,
It's 16% is,
overall.
it doesn't change.
Okay, I'm just,
Your
of
It's basically
everything.
the easiest way to remember it, it's 2 months of expenses.
Okay, awesome.
So that's how
I
you
just
do it.
wanted to know, I just
But
wanted to
depending
know.
on whether you're in the debt fund, which you have to, I mean, you're obligated to carry
Yeah.
certain specific amount of debt financing to cover whatever you've got. The general fund's as good as we can do. I mean, the general fund can go up and down, and sometimes it's been way down. But it's
Awesome.
up to the commission to set that for the most part, with the exception of the debt.
Okay, awesome. Page 61, this was just a weird number out there for me, and I love economic development. Just was wondering about, if you look at the economic development line on all departments, it went from $827,607 estimated to $4,170,551. I just curious on the jump there. That's a big jump in math, and I was just curious on the jump.
That number in the 2022, they include our reserves.
They include the reserves that you have over in that 9 million that's discretionary? Okay,
The 3 column totals.
Yeah.
One says actual,
Yeah.
obviously, that's
Yeah.
what we actually spent.
yeah,
Estimated is what we plan on actually spending.
yeah.
The budget's the entire budget. It's reserve, it's transfers, and it's
Okay,
everything.
that's good to
So it
know.
looks like it's
That's why I
always-
wanted to make sure.
Just about any line item should look inflated in that last column, because it's got everything.
Okay, great. That's the other question I had. When we look at and maybe this is where the inflation comes from and whatnot, and I just didn't see it. The estimated taxes are 18.4 in 2021, and we're estimated 39 million for next year. Is that with the reserves in there too? Is that what
And
is included?
transfers.
And transfers? Okay, that's why I just wanted to clarify on that, so. And thank you guys for letting me come speak, I appreciate it, so.
Thank you.
Good questions, and just remember, we're there 8 to 5, so we'll dig through it. It's pretty, I'm glad somebody reads it.
Does anyone else have any question during the public hearing portion of this budget? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and move a motion to approve the proposed 2022 budget for the city of Pittsburgh.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Been moved and second. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. Thank you, Zach,
job,
for asking
Larissa.
questions. Consider the following. Annexation request and ordinance number G-1327. Russell, consider the request submitted by Jim Russell and Linda Russell to have their property located north of Atkinson and west of Three Kings Highway annexed into the city of Pittsburgh, and adopt ordinance number G-1327, annexing the land into the limits and boundaries of the city of Pittsburgh, Kansas pursuant to KSA 12-520A7 as amended.
Mayor, Commissioners, the Russells have requested an annexation of the city of Pittsburgh. Our staff's recommendation is to approve it.
Is there, do we have anything on the screen so we can look and see, maybe the public one that specifically know what this might look like or not?
I don't think we're. Whatever Quentin can do.
Magic.
See how fast our server is. You're there, just go big,
Yeah,
it's right in the
you're there.
middle. You can see that, Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Quentin. I thought that was important, so,
Quentin, we got,
Your mouse is on the pit.
we're doing an advertisement for plastics.
Going to plastics.
I think we already have that in the city.
Yeah.
I would move approval if there's no other.
Oh, I thought he was still up there, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, okay, it's been moved and seconded for approval for this annexation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Real estate, item B, real estate sales contract. Consider approval of real estate sales contract between the city of Pittsburgh, Kansas and James A. Russell and Linda E. Russell, in which the city will purchase approximately 192 acres of real estate located north of Atkinson and west of Free Kings Highway from Mr. and Mrs. Russell.
Mayor, City Commission, this is the same piece of property that we just approved annexation into the city. Henry has asked one thing, if we could include, that you give me permission at closing to sign on behalf of the city. That's the last little piece of information, but we'd happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple concerning this contract, and I was looking here on the, page 110. And what I've got and I'd like to bring this up. When we purchased this piece of property, the purchase price is $1,200,000. So, but my question is, on this third, buyer acknowledges that is purchasing the subject property as is and without faults, subject to terms of.
With all faults.
With all faults. So, are there faults that we know of out there, or it just something legally that says if they are faults, we,
Yeah, I mean,
The city's not aware of anything. Darren and Dexter have been out to look at the property. This is farmland for the most part. There's some crop ground and some pasture ground. There's also a very nice home on the property, as well as a couple of outbuildings, but we're not aware of any issues, and we haven't identified any.
right. My next question, same page. The seller agrees to keep and maintain the insurance coverage on the structures above described real estate for replacement value, ensuring against loss due to fire, windstorm, lightning, and other such casualties until the date of closing, which the date of closing says it's September 30th, 2021.
Actually, Mayor, that date is our kind of our drop dead date for closing. Give us a kind of a final date unless the parties would agree to something else, but we intend on closing much sooner than that, actually.
So they will have insurance on this property whenever the closing is.
That is correct, yes. We wanted to make sure that was maintained.
All right, and then I think this ought to come out too. I mean, I'm not against this, but people ought to know the buyer acknowledged that sellers have an existing pasture lease for approximately 135 acres on the subject property with Campbell Farms Trucking LLC. And the buyer acknowledged that sellers have an existing tillable farm lease for approximately 35.3 acres with Campbell Farms. And this lease expires December 31st, 2021. So I think that's important to note also. And then I have another question back here. Subject property by sellers, on page 112. It has, I guess these are kind of conditions, but the sellers want. Item A, any future industrial park located on subject property by the buyer shall be named Monty Industrial Park. And I take it, it's probably people ought to know that this is our plans for another industrial park that's much needed.
Adjacent to.
Yeah,
Adjacent to.
adjacent to our, and Darren, maybe you can speak a little bit about that and how this is really a good investment for the city.
And could you include where the funds are coming from to pay for this?
Yeah, sure, okay, so number one, we only have so much industrial park space in the city. We're very fortunate that we've got a lot of growth in the businesses that are in our industrial parks, and the few acres that we have unallocated are currently being sought after. What we don't have is a very large, new, undeveloped industrial park with rail access next to a highway, which this is. We've got several interested parties. We always have interested parties, but most of them don't want to wait around for us to strike a land deal or buy some land and move some people off of it. So this is a huge opportunity for us. It is adjacent to our existing industrial park. The utilities are already there. Obviously, Atkinson is an important road, and the highway is just a couple of miles to the north. So it's a fantastic site for us, and it will be used not as a soccer field or as anything else. It will be used in an industrial park. The second question is, how are we paying for it? The EDAC recommended approving $903,000 out of the revolving loan fund towards this purchase. I think we've been very fortunate this year with the sale of some land. So we've got some, for those of you that are paying attention at home, most of our revenue is tax or fee. But if we buy a piece of land in 1975 for $25,000 and we sell it in 2020 for $500,000, that gap is not tax money. That is profit that we made by being in the market. So we've had some land purchases that we've done this year that allowed us to acquire some money. So we'll probably split this for the most part from the revolving loan fund, where they did authorize us to spend $903,000, but we'll probably take half of it from there and half of it from the general fund, just so we don't impact one fund too much. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Yes, and I have one final question. Item B on that same page about the property. The initial roadway constructed on subject property by the buyer shall be named either Russell Street or Russell Road. And correct me if I am wrong, I think we already have a Russell Street or a Russell Road, so what do we do?
Well, we don't have both. So if
Well,
we
so
have
one
Russell
could be
Street,
Ro-
Boulevard or something,
yeah.
industrial way, something.
If we have Russell Street,
As
we'll
long
call
as
it
it got
Russell
Russell.
Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
It's her maiden name and his name.
Right.
The family farm's been in there for years and years and years, and this isn't something that just jumped up. This has been worked on for many years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Off and on
I hate
for
to tell you
many
how much
years.
time I worked on
It is adjacent to the industrial park, just like Darren said, it's right on a highway, it's rail served, which adds great value, not residential, it's industrial property. Very limited opportunity to get anything this size anywhere. So it is a tremendous opportunity for the city of Pittsburgh.
Can you do a breakdown of what that 192 acres is going to cost the city per acre?
Yeah.
There's a math teacher over there.
You're gonna make me.
Yeah, throw the numbers at Zach.
Well, the reason why I say I know property is very expensive now, and I think.
Depends who you ask.
Do what?
Depends who you ask, if we're the buyer or the seller.
Yeah. But you're right, Chuck, it's a good deal.
But I think that's what I wanted to
Yes.
try to point out, Dawn, that.
So that comes out to about $6,250 an acre. Now, there's other things going on, but, yeah, basically, it's a lot friendlier price than I thought we were gonna have to come up with to actually purchase that property. And the amount of flexibility it gives us is, I think, well, I mean, we're jumping into a conversation about financing projects. I think it's only fair if we go back 15 minutes to the gentleman that asked about the budget and why we would have reserves and not just carry our minimum level and always just forgo any taxes. The reason you carry twice as much in reserves if you can, obviously, we're all aware of taxes, and we don't want to overtax our citizens and create a war chest, and then you're in this bad position of people are like, why am I paying for a war chest of money that's not going to get spent when I'm even maybe in Pittsburgh? I may be moving next year, it may not live that long. But there is a reason that we don't want to have every deal that we have the opportunity to do have to go through the threshold of, is it going to put us in a financially stressful condition, which would be going below that minimum reserve level. So I definitely think it's a fair question, but the reality is, I've never met anybody in my life that lives on the minimum of everything and feels like they're confident that they can take care of their family, their business, or their life. We've got a responsibility to do things when the opportunities come up. This family has owned this property, I believe, for 100 years. It's the family farm. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to get it. We should feel fortunate, but the only reason we do have it is because we've been very lucky with our local economy. Taxes have been strong, and we've survived the pandemic, and we're in a position where we have enough money where it's not going to put us into, financial dire situation by doing it. So it's $1.2 million. It's a lot of money, but we've got a $64 million budget, and we've got an opportunity to turn this $1.2 million into more jobs and more industry and more favorable conditions for the businesses that work here. So I think it's a good idea.
Our industrial property, like what do you say, the site? The city still owns this ground, no matter who builds there or moves there with their company. So they will pay us a lease to build their building on this property, and that will help you.
Well, I mean, we have to be fair. We can sell it. I mean, there's plenty of businesses that would come in. Some businesses like to operate on leased land, and they put up buildings, and they may pay for the building, and they don't mind having a lease. Some businesses like to own the land. So it just depends on the business. But what it gives us is the flexibility to do that, where with 192 acres, you could sell a 50-acre site to somebody and still have plenty of industrial park left. And there's plenty of people at the city that like the idea of we maintain the land and we lease that back, and that's usually how we do most of the business in our industrial parks, Mayor. You're right.
All right,
But we could sell it if it came up.
okay. Now, is anybody
I
else?
want to say one thing. We wouldn't be at this point with this piece of property if it wasn't for Larry Field stepping in and moving the ball. And I think that it shows what cooperation and what good business sense that we have up here on this dais. That he was able to step in and basically facilitate this deal. And I want to thank you myself.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, you're more than welcome, but this is a good investment for the citizens of Pittsburgh. Larry Fields would have liked to have bought that farm himself, but for a few dollars, I wasn't able to do it. But the important thing to realize is this is a rail-served industrial park, large, 190 acres. And a number of businesses are interested already. It's not new, and then there's people going to criticize us and the city and city staff and city management. Well, why didn't I know about that? Why didn't you talk about that? Very, very simple. If you're going to buy something, you don't want to tell everybody in the county you're going to buy it, because all that does is run the price up. This family has owned it for many, many years, as Darren said. They want their name on it, some legacy. Their children have moved away. They love the farm, and that's easy to get into that mode. When you grew up on something, you love it. It's a very fair price when you look at strip pit dumps around here. Property like that is selling for $5,000 an acre. This is rail-served industrial. You're not going to turn it around tomorrow. It's going to take some time, but you'll never have an opportunity in Pittsburgh, Kansas, to have that kind of industrial park adjacent to what you've got, rail-served. So it's a real benefit, and it's going to do long-term benefits for Pittsburgh and the citizens of Pittsburgh, and create new jobs and new opportunities. And in my opinion, just my opinion, it's going to be a great asset for the city of Pittsburgh.
Anything else? I do have a question before we move to approve this sales contract. Is there something that we need to do to give Darren authority to?
Yeah, it's just a part of your motion, if you would include granting the city manager the authority to sign the closing documents on behalf of the city.
All right, is there a motion?
So I move approval of the real estate sales contract to include giving the city manager the authorization to sign documents on behalf of the city.
I second it.
Been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Yeah.
Mayor, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I just want to thank the Russells. I don't think they're They laughed at me when I asked them if they watched the commission meetings. I think they've got other things going on.
Did that
But,
mean, of course they want it?
They have
They're a fine
been,
family. They really
they
are.
are, they are a unique couple, and
Yes.
they're very sweet, and they were, they're hard negotiators, and they understood the importance of this to Pittsburgh, and I think they really appreciate all of you giving the consideration with the naming and that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure, not just thanking them, but thanking you, because whatever Patrick said, he understated. Larry, they wouldn't even meet with me without Larry. They knew Larry and trust is a big deal in a deal like this. So thanks to all of you, but very much thanks to the Russells. If you're listening, and if you're not, thanks anyway, because this is going to be a big deal for the city of Pittsburgh.
And they're very proud that Pittsburgh's going to gain from this, and they realize the gains that'll come, and they're really a great family. They really are.
They are.
It's hard to sell your family farm after you've had it for 70, 80 years. Very difficult.
All right, good deal.
Thank you.
Moving on to item C, appointment to Planning Commission / Board of Zoning Appeals. Consider staff recommendation to appoint one individual to fill an unexpired term as a member of the Planning Commission Board of Zoning Appeals effective August 25th, 2021, and to include December 31st, 2021.
Okay. So we had a member of the Planning and Zoning Board remove themselves from the board, which created an open spot that needs to be filled, obviously, because there are 6 members now and 1 vacant position. So I believe we had 2 applicants who are both here today. So you
All
call
right,
them up in
thank you,
whatever order.
Quentin. In the past, we've always had the applicants come and tell us a little bit about themselves and why they want to be on this board, and I don't care who goes first, I guess alphabetical order, whoever that might be. Would you like to
Bob
come?
Gilmore, I believe, G before A.
Bob Gilmore, all right.
Got something right today.
Good evening, Commissioners, staff. My name is Bob Gilmore, or my name is actually Charles R. Gilmore. I go by Bob Gilmore. I'm 75 years old. I've lived in the Pittsburgh community all my life. I want to get that out in the open. Start off with, I've been here all my life. I'm a master plumber, have been for over 50 years. I've been a member of the Planning and Zoning Board over several years over time. I think it goes back starting in the early 2000s, late 1900s, so I've been on the board a long time. And I decided I wasn't coming back to go back on the board, but when we lost Mike Creel, who's been on the board, I served with Mike a lot of times. Mike had a lot of knowledge, and I thought we needed some more knowledge in there. I worked for the city of Pittsburgh for almost 10 years as a building inspector and doing codes enforcement, and worked with planning and zoning all this time too. So I know something about how it goes and how it happens. And one of my reasons of getting on it, I have an interest in the city of Pittsburgh, I always have. When I go to a meeting, I don't care who's there, who's talking. I'm going to listen to what they have to say, and then I'm going to make a decision, in my opinion, what is best for the city of Pittsburgh and nothing else. I don't care what other agendas people have. I'm looking for what's best for the city of Pittsburgh. And my other reason is, at my age, I want to keep my mind sharp. And by being involved, that helps me do that. And somebody has said something to me about my age. My age shouldn't make a factor in this. All it should be that I'm qualified to do the job and have the qualifications and have done it in the past. And so I would like your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Hello, Honorable Mayor, City Commission. I'm Mike Hanica. I'm hard act to follow there, but I have about 30 years of construction experience, a wide array of engineering, design, survey, construction, and business owner. The last 16 I've been in Pittsburgh, I really want, I mean, it makes me feel good to volunteer and be part of such an important board to help the city grow and take it to the next level. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we move on to appointing somebody on this board, I want to address several calls that I've gotten recently and in the past year or two when it comes to appointing people on boards. You know, as a commissioner, I think this is a very, very important job that we have for all of our boards, that we make decisions and appoint people to represent us on the board. And I've had several calls over the past couple of years from current members on boards. And I you know, that's my job to take these calls. But I just want to, for clarification and transparency, that as a commissioner, I base my vote on appointment to somebody on the board, not by being influenced from people that's already on the board, and not by being influenced from city staff. I think it's very important that I base my decision that I make on appointments on three things. Number one, the knowledge that this person has about whatever particular board they want to serve on. I forgot number two, but yeah, I can blame that on old age. But anyway, Bob, there's nothing against age that keeps anybody from being on the board. But I just want to clarify, which I've heard this before from people that's been on the board. I've even had a guy call me one time, was upset because I didn't vote for him to be on the board. But what I do is I base my decision on people that has the knowledge that will represent all the citizens of Pittsburgh that I feel that best would be suited for this board. And I think when you start taking people that's on the board or any other influences, then it takes that part of my job away from me, and it turns it into a good old boy system. And I'm not anywhere involved in any type of good old boy system. I was elected to make the best decisions for the citizens of our community, and that's what I base my appointments on, who's going to do the best job. And, you know, that's only my thoughts. If any other commissioners have anything they want to say about how the process works, feel free to. But other than that, we can.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
My comment is we have two very good qualified people for it. Very good. And regardless of how the vote comes, you're needed for boards. The Sustainability Board, the Airport Board, and lots of volunteering situations in Pittsburgh, lots of things, and you're both well qualified for other boards. So, you know, don't let it, however it turns out, please don't get discouraged, because we need people like you on boards. We really, really do. And I'm really glad we have two candidates on it, not just one. I think that makes a big difference. And it is an important board, just like Chuck said, it's very important. Downtown Alliance Board's important. They're all important. So I'm really glad you're both here. Thank you very much.
Did anybody else have any comments? All right, we'll move on to voting.
Sorry, I picked up 6 ballots. One of them was, I don't know, somebody gave me 2. I was like, okay. Anyway, so Mike Hanukkah got the most votes.
congratulate Mike Hanukkah on getting the most votes for this board.
This is actually.
And like Larry said, I give you both credit for stepping up and wanting to be part of what's happening in Pittsburgh. We need more people like you, definitely. Is there a motion to approve Mike Hanna to the Planning and Zoning Board?
So moved.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item D, deposition of bids. C-Clip SP resurfacing project, Broadway Street, US-69B and 4th Street, K-126. Staff is requesting governing body approval to award the bid for the C-Clip SP resurfacing project on Broadway Street, US-69B and West 4th Street, K-126 to Hecker Construction, Inc. of Pittsburgh, Kansas, with a low bid of $996,421.37. Matt.
Good evening. We took bids on the C-Clip project we've been talking about for a while. Just kind of as a point of clarification that, you know, this project, we had submitted two C-Clip projects. The original was from 2nd to 5th and the other was from 5th to 11th, because this was all part of the downtown overlay project. KDOT did not approve the 5th through 11th, so we chose to move forward with doing everything from 2nd to 11th as part of this project, including the stretch of stretch of 4th Street between Pine and Broadway, because we had a pretty nasty water main blow up, and if you drive over it, it's terrible. Anyways, so KDOT's matching part of those funds was $300,000, and this project is looking at $900,000. So just so you know, I just kind of brought up, so this project, KDOT funding didn't kick in until the end of July, so we've been working on KDOT. A big part of this project is doing subsurface repairs. So if you look at a lot of them through the winter and everything that we've had, the original intent of the project was a mill and overlay of just 2 inches of asphalt. We're going to go through and address a lot of those rutting issues, the subsurface repairs that they need to go through there. So through this fall, we're going to work through doing spot repairs on that and doing full depth concrete replacement to the top so that the surface will match as we go through winter. And I just kind of brought it up here tonight on the screen. You can see the big areas in gray on this plan. I mean, those are some pretty significant areas of repair. I don't know how quick I flipped through that, but down Broadway of where we have issues before we get into next spring to do the mill and overlay. So that just kind of gives everyone a little bit of base on what's going on with this project. The bids, we were extremely happy with the bids that came underneath the engineer's estimate. They are for $996,000. The second bidder was less than $1,200 of separation. So we did discuss with both bidders their schedule, making sure they could comply with their schedules of December 1st to be completed with the concrete and next June to be done with the asphalt. Tonight I provided you with a letter of recommendation from Olson after evaluation of the bids, and it is our recommendation to move forward with Eckerd Construction with the award of the bid. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do you think this, this is going to start when and finish when?
So our notice, so we are moving as quick as we can. We're hoping to issue a notice to proceed. You'll have to approve the contract tonight and the notice of award. KDOT will also have to accept award. We would like to be a notice to proceed by September 15th is what we're going for.
How many months do you think it'll take?
They'll have till the 1st of December to complete the concrete work, and then obviously we'll have to go through the winter months. You can't get asphalt, and then they've got a completion date of June 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Of next year.
Is there enough concrete to go ahead? Is it in short supply like the asphalt is, or will it be available?
Not at the moment. There's short supply of concrete truck drivers.
Yes, I do that, yeah.
But
Yeah.
not material.
It is hard to get delivered.
Yeah. So, but, yeah, no, it should be a real good project and make a big
It's a
impact.
good project, definitely needed.
Any further questions for Matt?
I don't.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Matt. Item E, wastewater treatment plant design agreement. amendment number 1. Staff are requesting governing body approval of amendment number 1 to the wastewater treatment plant design agreement for the design of an additional lift station along the eastern side of 69 Highway towards the end of Kansas Street. If approved, this agreement will add an additional 60 days to the contract and will increase the contract by $88,000, making the adjusted agreement amount $2,436,328.
So, as we've continued to work on the design of the wastewater treatment plant, if you recall from working days and as we've talked about it for the last couple of years, we continue to have an extreme I&I issue, inflow and infiltration issue into our wastewater collection system. And some of the things that we've talked to KDHE is about how big we have to design our wastewater treatment plant. Well, this particular line item is related around our lift station. So part of Earl's Engineering's contract was the redesign of the airport lift station in that industrial park, and Sugar Creek contributes to that lift station. They're looking to grow that lift station is almost at capacity. Well, that lift station, as it contributes back into our wastewater collection system, and I would have brought a map, but I couldn't get it sized right. And it's 150 miles of pipe and 2,500 manholes. But anyways, as it comes down, as it comes from the north, we've got 4 miles to get down the wastewater plant. Well, right around 4th and the bypass, we have the county lift station that contributes into our collection system, everything coming from the north and a lot of the bigger part of the east. So what we have is we have issues with sanitary sewer overflows in that area. And so what we're looking for in this lift station is an additional lift station to be included in this general vicinity to, one, help transfer our sanitary sewer coming from the north, as long as take some additional overflow capacity relief off of our existing gravity collection system, combine it into a wet well, and help run a secondary line down to the wastewater treatment plant, so not everything is running in that line on the bypass. So it's kind of a twofold process that we're looking. And as we look at design, this also looks around pumps. It's a good time to include pump design, skated design, all the controls, valves, fittings, and everything to be included in, so that we're standardized in that regard. And that's what we're asking for tonight, is consideration to go ahead and move forward with design to handle that.
Matt, I've got a question. Is this going to help with the issue of the flooding on Main Street?
No, but that's a straight stormwater. That's all around stormwater. This is particularly dealing with all the water that comes infiltrating our wastewater collection, our sanitary sewer system. That it causes our sanitary sewer manholes to overflow, separate from our storm system.
Okay, thank you.
So this needs to be done along with the new wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, in conjunction with, yes.
It increases the capacity for everything coming, especially from the Bacon plant, as it's referred to,
Correct.
which is
I
badly
applaud
wanted to
you.
grow.
I applaud you looking at this and getting this brought up to snuff.
We're
at this
trying.
time.
So, yes, thank you.
Any further questions of Matt? Is there a motion to approve this amendment?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Matt. Item F, wastewater treatment plant design agreement, amendment number 2. Staff is requesting governing body approval of amendment number 2 to the wastewater treatment plant design agreement for the design of a replacement of the East 4th Street lift station. If approved, this amendment will add an additional 60 days to the contract and will increase the contract by $24,000, making an adjustment agreement amount of $2,460,328.
So in the same regard of when you design lift stations and you're looking at pump design and controls and how that integrates, the East 4th lift station, which sits just on the south side of the 4th Street overpass, kind of back behind the gas company behind it in the garden, there's a lift station that sits below grade about 35 feet down there, and it's approximately 30 years old. It is required, I've kind of brought a picture, basically you run down an elevated chute to get into this lift station, and then your pumps and everything are contained, your large pumps are inside of there. I'll bring up a couple photos. Kind of looks like that. You've got your pumps inside of there, and so an individual has to go into this, monitor the air quality, keep track of that. Our current situation, and these pumps typically engage in ionized vents as well, in some overflow capacity that contributes to an additional 30-inch main that goes down the Waco Trail into the plant. This lift station is 30 years old. The exterior of this pump, or manwell, if you will, this 35 feet below grade is 30 years old. It's carbon steel, and it's starting to have pivoting and rust issues around the exterior. So it is looking at, we're trying what we can to continue to keep the structural integrity of that unit in place. But it is time to look at replacing that, and there are different lift stations that you will not have to go down. You can submersible pump it, and we need to look at this for the future.
This is an actual picture of this?
Yeah, this is the inside. That is the inside. You have a couple pumps. We got all our electrical and power inside of there. As you look at some of the floor and just the issues with the moisture coming in, I mean, that's all. It's a steel encased enclosure is what's going on, and so we're starting to deal with. You can see the pivoting in the carbon steel where it's coming through, and once you also deal with groundwater coming through there, so you can't just like weld a plate over the top of it or paint over the. I mean, and that's coming from the exterior. It's eating from the exterior in. So, yeah, it's a challenging situation.
Matt, is the replacement concrete? What you
mean like try to reline the inside with a concrete?
Not doable. It's not a lot of money.
It'd be fairly significant. I mean,
it'd be more than the 24.
Yeah, but you've also got all the pumps inside of there.
Yeah.
Or 30 years old as well.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of a wholesale deal.
So, to me, this looks like an unsafe condition.
Yeah.
To put
It's not fabulous. No.
employees in. My next question is, since this is deteriorating, is this something that we need to do now? Start working on this?
We need to get something designed. We need to get something designed, and then we'll find funding opportunities.
So you may bring this back separate? I mean.
We may. It wouldn't have to necessarily be bid with the wastewater treatment plant. It could be bid as an independent project alternative, but it needs to be incorporated with design for continuity of pumps and controls and those type of things with our system.
So when that happens, that's still being used while the other one is being built to replace it?
Yes.
And how long does that take, time-wise?
If you bought it and you had a new replacement, I'd say it's probably a 6-month contract. I mean, you gotta dig a hole 40 foot in the ground. And then you gotta move it over, repipe everything, get it all going. So it's a significant project.
Basically, it'll be in the same location?
Yes.
Pretty close?
Yes.
And the new one will take away the safety issue of any employees having to go down?
Right, it would be a submersible new
Right.
unit, like a wet well, and yeah, we'd get away from people going 35 foot below the grade.
Right.
Yep.
Do you anticipate any other portions of the system needing to be upgraded as we move forward on the design?
So, yes.
Yes, okay.
There's,
Yes.
no, not of this significant. So kind of to answer the question we were discussing about rates and everything like that. So even part of our wastewater study that we took to KDHE, and they were dealing with the I-9, we were having that fight. I took the 150 miles of wastewater collection system and the 2,500 manholes, and I ran some basic unit price numbers against our wastewater collection piping alone. We could spend $100 million pretty easy just working on a wastewater collection system, just relining pipes. I mean, it's whenever you look at those numbers, it's a pretty crazy deal. From a significant impact of what we need today, these are two big issues. The rest of it we're going to continue to try to stab at through operating funds.
But just as a point, I don't think the city of Pittsburgh is any different than any other city that's behind the 8 ball with their water.
No, there's plenty of combined sanitary sewer systems that are out there that have overflow issues, and there's plenty that are independent like ours that still have I&I issues. We still have, the city's 145 years old, and a lot of it was original. I mean, it's just, and we're clay and we're on mined and expansive soils. it's just tough.
Thank you.
You have a question for Matt? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Uh,
Good job, Matt.
So, do we have something else?
Non-agenda.
Non-agenda, okay. Non-agenda reports and requests, and I don't, are you still up there for something, Matt?
No, I'm just leaving.
All right.
I'm sure I've got something.
All right, well, I have a couple things, and before Brent comes up, I'd like to hear the fire chief. I had some questions when I was in Florida about our surplus equipment that was being put on Purple Wave. So I don't know with the me being on the telephone if you was able to understand what I was asking for.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. No fire equipment is being placed on Purple Wave.
Okay.
We have it all at the fire station. Some of the equipment will be replaced when the new equipment that's on order comes in. Once it does, then we'll develop a plan to make it available.
Okay, well, thank you for that, but my question would be, which was, have you reached out to other smaller departments? Have you talked with any of these departments that might be requesting this equipment?
I've had some contact from other departments. They've contacted me, but the bulk of the equipment will be replaced when the new equipment arrives. So when we get our new equipment in service, that's when we'll make the contacts.
So this equipment wasn't surplus equipment that we wasn't using?
Some of it was, to be honest with you, but I think it's just easier to manage it all at one time. We can take multiple pictures, make it all available, and then we can make all that information available to the fire departments, and they can, tell us what they want. Some of the nozzles we took off of the engines hadn't been used in 20 years.
So when you had this surplus equipment for Purple Wave, I understand it was moved to John Van Gordon building or was it always at the fire station?
It was moved to the garage, and when we were instructed to not dispose of it on Purple Wave, we went to the garage, we got it back, and it's in Fire Station 1 right now.
So if we needed it in an emergency, it should be at the fire station for our
It's in the fire station, but in all honesty, sir, it's just about obsolete. But if we did need it, it is available.
Yeah, it
Yes,
should
sir.
be at the fire station. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks for that answer. Okay, Brent. I read something in the Morning Sun, and I asked to have you here to address some of these things that were listed in the Morning Sun. I think it's more than fair that you should comment on this.
Sure.
But before you get started, I just want to let everybody know that the men and women of the Pittsburgh Police Department has my utmost respect, and I support everything they do. So this is not pick on the police department, just as is something that I talked to Darren about, that I picked up the Morning Sun, and I read this, and I'm thinking, we got a lot of good things going on in the city of Pittsburgh. My concern is when I see something in the paper that says we don't, and we might want to move to Pittsburgh, I think that's part of my job to find out what's going on with this article.
Sure.
And that's why I want you here to explain it.
Sure, yeah, I certainly appreciate those kind words of support for our organization. I would like to kind of give an overview of things, maybe a little educational phase of understanding of what exactly that article's about. So every law enforcement agency in the state of Kansas is mandated to provide crime data on a monthly basis to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. The KBI then in turn reports this data to the national level at the FBI. So traditionally, every August, the KBI issues a report. That is what was in the Morning Sun, referenced in the Morning Sun newspaper article.
Typically, every September, the FBI does their national report, which looks at a national trends and it breaks it down to each separate jurisdiction as well. So basically, they look at two main categories of crime. The first of which is kind of a property crime. Those are the lesser serious, thefts, burglaries, things of that nature. And then there's violent crimes that are analyzed and looked at, and they're grouped together. Kansas specifically, 86% of all crime is property crime. And so the remaining 14% would be violent types of crime. Pittsburgh is no different. We've seen similar trends here. Overall, the crime rate is going down the last 10 years.
In Pittsburgh or
in
overall?
the state, and we have seen that as well, that trend as well. Now, that's the overall. Property crime has gone down, but violent crime has gone up throughout the state. And we see that locally as well, so we're consistent with the state and probably the vast majority of communities around the state as well. Historically, Pittsburgh has had a higher rate of property crime. That goes back many decades. There's three main reasons that we believe and that we've discussed and the experts say that influence that increase. Pittsburgh is a border town. We're close to Missouri. We're a state line. That apparently has an impact, probably the transient population, something to that effect. We're a university town. And then also Southeast Kansas has our socioeconomic challenges as well. So all of those play a role in overall crime and property crime as well. So one might ask what kind of impact has COVID had on crime in general? Certainly locally we've seen an impact, and this is probably indicative of the entire nation. Many agencies, probably most law enforcement agencies, have implemented mitigation type policies, procedures, probably some reduction of services to the community to offset the interaction with community members. Jails have had their challenges, and the number of jail cells available have been reduced. So less of the folks we have contact we normally arrest, take to jail. That has been reduced. The court system nationwide, Kansas is no exception. The Kansas Supreme Court had closed down our district courts for an extended period of time last year, and finally they're opening up this year. After that, I need to mention that the mental health infrastructure, the mental health system, probably nationwide, has had some challenges as well. Overall, the inpatient beds in treatment facilities have seen an impact. So ultimately, with all these combined, we have seen probably a larger number of individuals walking our community, the streets in our communities, that otherwise may be incarcerated or maybe getting treatment in mental health facilities. Lastly, I'd like to mention schools. Schools were closed for periods of time, and if they weren't, many students were online learning. Parents were laid off potentially. Parents were working from home. So that created interesting dynamics at home where there's prolonged periods of time that normally we wouldn't have that. So what we did see at the local level, and I'm sure at the national level as well, is when schools did get back in session, they're actually physically at the school, we did see an increased number of disclosures of abuse, child abuse type cases. That was initially, the weeks following after getting back. Hopefully we can get back to where we were in 2019. Who knows? I don't think any of us really know the answer to that right now. So basically, I just wanted to give an overview of what I see, what we see
as a local police department, not only locally, but at a national level. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer any of those at this time if you do.
I have a few.
Sure.
I just heard you say that because of COVID, you know, some of our jails was, you know, I don't know if they were taking people that you arrested. But to me, I don't know, that might be something for the people that's gonna do not good things, that maybe know that we can steal stuff, and with COVID, there probably is not gonna be anything done, you know what I'm saying? So did that, and you say increase during that period of time, property crimes?
I would say you're accurate on that assessment, yes.
Are you seeing I've heard this too, and it's very frustrating. You guys are doing your jobs. You're going out, protecting us, arresting people. But the complaint I hear is our court system. You arrest them, and a few days later, they're back on the street. And I had a guy tell me the other day about a piece of equipment that was stowed off a job site. And he said that individual was in jail prior for a few days and got released. What's going on with that, or can you?
You know, I don't have all the answers for that. There's a variety of reasons.
Okay, let's be, you know,
There's a variety of
I don't want to
reasons.
put the chief on the spot
Yeah,
answering for the
yeah.
court system, because I don't think it's fair to him, and it's definitely not fair to the judges. I mean, that's gonna put him in a tough spot. We have a part of the criminal justice system that we operate under. We are the police department. We do an exceptional job, but I mean, I would just hate for us to say anything today negative about what the courts are doing and what Brent thinks the courts should be doing, because they're doing what they're doing, and that's not ours, Mayor. And I think we need to be respectful of the job that they're trying to do under the conditions, just like we would be about the
I understand
police.
that was posed to me by someone that had something stowed, and he was
Sure.
upset about it. So that's why I brought that up.
They have policies given from the state that they abide by, so, like the, city manager indicated, it's probably a better question for them, of what their protocols are. But I know they're challenged as well, just like everyone else around the nation. COVID certainly has thrown a curveball around for everybody, and we're just trying to implement mitigation the best we can, and continue to serve the community in the best fashion that we can. So,
Got a couple more questions for you, Brent.
sure.
Catalytic converters. Are we catching people, are we arresting people that steal these catalytic converters?
I believe we've come across, I've got my lieutenant detective here, it's a challenge to get those individuals. That has been a significant increase over the past, year and a half or so. It's challenging. It's challenging. There have been a few arrests, but not nearly what we'd like. But typically what you have is you have a small number of individuals committing a lot of crimes. So you have these prolific offenders that they may be from the community, they may not be from the community. They may just be coming from, for example, from Missouri. They may be a transient offender. So it's difficult. Unless you catch them in the act, it's rather challenging.
My last comment is, I know you got a hard job, and I know it happened in my neighborhood. My neighbors called in complaints with drug use and property theft. And, these people that lived in the neighborhood, they was in like a triangle, all of them connected. And, you sit and watch it. I've watched drug deals in front of my house. Person comes this way, from that way, something's handed off and they leave. I've watched, usually it happens at dark. I see these people, thanks to you guys, that went away because of the neighbors' complaints and some other things that took place. But we watched these people. It was kind of like and I'm not saying entertainment, but it was something for the neighborhood to watch during COVID. We watched what was going on.
Sure.
We watched, and I don't have any sympathy for somebody that steals property, because there's plenty of jobs out there. Get a damn job and pay for the stuff like everybody else. But off my soapbox. We watch people put on backpacks and get on bicycle and have an empty trailer at dark, and they're going shopping. They're not going to go to Walmart, and they're not going to the mall. They're shopping in our neighborhood, and they do. They come back, They got a lot of stuff that they've stolen, and they poured it out or whatever. As a matter of fact, there was, the drug issue was so bad in our neighborhood that there was one particular house that had to be condemned by the city because this house had some children living in there. It had no utility, no running water, no heat, no electricity, or nothing. And these people had children living in there. So eventually, the house got condemned, boarded up, people moved on. There was a garage at this place that had to be torn down. City, naturally, when nobody takes care of the property, it's all on us to pay for this, so the city sent the crew out, and they was picking up all this trash around this garage where a lot of activity happened. You know, they had to stop what they was doing because there were so many needles in this trash that they was worried they were going to get stuck. So they had to call in equipment to bag this stuff up and get rid of it. So, like I said, I just wanted you to have a chance to explain what's going on, and I appreciate that, Brent, because like I said, I think we have a great city and we got a great police force, and something like this, when somebody reads it in a paper, it's gonna make them wonder what's going on. But I think you've done a good job explaining what you guys do. If there's anything, I'm sure,
Chuck, I would like,
can I say one more thing?
sure.
If there's anything, I'm sure all of us on the commission, if you need anything to help you do your job, I think we're here to see whatever you need and possibly help you with.
Thank you. We have a lot of agencies in town that support the individuals that, you know, families and those with mental health. And I know that the police department has some really good relationships with those agencies. Is there something that you see that our community of social service agencies could do to better support what the police are doing or
Well,
facing?
I think there's some things in the works in reference to serving those with mental health challenges. It's just with COVID, it's slow going right now, but there are things in place. It's networking and understanding what all the services are in the community and utilizing those to the full extent is oftentimes the key component of that.
Do you feel your officers have a broad knowledge of what's available, or what's the, I mean, is there something that that community can do to educate or?
Fortunately, I think we have a pretty good grasp. Obviously, we have a very solid, and we're very fortunate to have a program here with our Family Advocates program, which the vast majority of other law enforcement agencies around the state and country don't have. So they're able to reach out to these families and provide these services that we as police officers would not be able to do that, would not have the time or the networking ability to do that. So we're fortunate that we have the support and the funding to partner with other organizations to do that. So,
Yeah, just so everyone knows, that's a grant through the Family Resource Center.
correct.
So,
Yeah. And is there anything else? Any other questions?
Thank you.
It's not a question, but one of the, you know, we do hear a lot about the homeless and the people on the streets, but Pittsburgh is the only city in southeast Kansas that has the Wesley House and the Lord's Diner and Salvation Army and St. Mary's Goodwill and all of these places where you can get breakfast. You can get a shower, the men can one day a week, and the women can a different day of the week in some of these facilities. So the facilities are here, so they're going to naturally migrate to this kind of an area. Arma doesn't have it, Frontenac, other cities don't have these things. So it's a bit of a two-edged sword. They certainly need to eat. They certainly deserve clothing and anything that we can provide for them. But it does draw some that may not, they don't go to the other areas. And you hear that criticism, well, they don't have that in Frontenac. Well, they don't have a Wesley House or a Salvation Army, and they don't have these facilities or a Lord's Diner. So these are wonderful things that are provided, but they do tend to draw. So Pittsburgh and Joplin are the only towns of size in the area that, and we're going to have that. I seen a bus from out of state. I happen to have a facility near the Lord's Diner, and I was working there one day. I seen a bus pull in from out of state, city not far away. They unloaded 7 men there, and they got out with their bags and boxes, tied with strings and ropes. They drove off and left them right next to the Lord's Diner. They had these men just looking around, looking at the hotel bus and wondering where they were at. And so they, you know, is it illegal to do that? Probably not, but it's certainly immoral at the least. They just brought them to Pittsburgh and unloaded them. So, you know, and I'm not saying that was a horrible thing or a good thing by any means, but they can get a meal here, they can get clothing, and they can get some assistance and help. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword, but it is something that is sorely needed. And as you mentioned several times, Chief, the mental health is really needed. It's not all drugs. A lot of it is mental health and sorely needed. And I appreciate you coming this evening too.
Sure.
But thank you very much.
If there's nothing else, just lastly, I'd like to say that myself and our staff, I continually remind our staff, we're very fortunate to be in Pittsburgh. We do have a lot of support, not only from city staff and the commission, but our community as a whole. A lot of other communities don't have that, so we do appreciate that. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Brent.
Thanks.
Hey, just one thing before the chief goes. There, and the mayor brought it up, I think it's worth mentioning. We've increased our police force over the last, we were very fortunate with public safety sales tax. We have more dispatchers, we have more officers to respond, but we're still talking about 5 officers at any given time. And I know it puts a little burden, but the more people can communicate with the police department and call the police department and give them a chance to respond, the better it's gonna work. So that does happen from time to time. I know some people are like, I don't wanna get involved in it and I don't wanna call on my neighbor or something. They see something going down. But quite frankly, 5 people in cars in a town this big, it's just not enough eyes. So there's always that community that can assist us, and hopefully people understand that they should never feel bad about calling the police department. They're not gonna have to necessarily leave their name or be part of some report. But we've been very fortunate with people keeping their eyes on, because property crime, which is 86%, that's really what's going on here. It's obnoxious. There's 100 reasons for it. We're no different than any other town. But the community's help and keep an eye on things and letting us know, it does get heard. I talk to the chief regularly about, hey, somebody called in and check this out. And the men and women go over there and check it out. So thanks, and continue to keep doing that to the community, because that's a big part of law enforcement in Pittsburgh.
Thank you again,
Thanks,
Brent.
Brent.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other non-agenda reports and requests? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved.
Second.
Second. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good.